Hi, I'm Valeria, and moving to London was something I had always dreamed of. The iconic skyline, the bustling streets, the history, it's also enchanting. But let me tell you, it's not all red buses and two breaks. Something about life here left me completely baffled. Today, I'm sharing my biggest culture shocks after living in London for just a month. If you've ever considered moving to the UK or just wondered what it's really like, this video is for you. When I first arrived here, one of the most bizarre things I noticed wasn't the double-decker buses or the constant drizzle, it was how open people's homes are. Picture this, I'm walking down a cozy street in the evening and I see these beautiful homes all lit up with their windows wide open and curtains drawn back. It felt like watching real live TV shows or something. I got used to the drawing the curtains right after the sunset, as well as locking the door. Privacy is a big deal for me. Here it's almost like people want you to see their interiors, to see their life, their perfectly curated bookshelves, minimalist decor, or even their diner tables. Everything is on display. I couldn't stop wondering, don't they feel exposed? It's such a stark difference in how privacy is perceived. It's not just a habit, it feels cultural. Like they're saying, this is who I am and I'm not afraid to show it. For me, I think there are two main reasons for being so open. The first one is that people are really open. They're not afraid to show what they really are because chances are they will be criticized for their nature and views, as well as it works in other countries with a lower level of tolerance to others. And the second reason is that on average, and of course this depends on the specific location, but the crime rate is relatively low, particularly for things like burglary or espionage. Now let's talk about those iconic separate hot and cold water taps. If you've ever stayed in an old Victorian house in the UK, you know exactly what I mean. On one side you have water that feels like it's straight out of Arctic, very cold. On the other, it's a boiling lava. And there you are, performing some awkward hand dancing, desperately trying to mix these two temperatures of water without burning or freezing yourself. But why are they separated in the first place? And the answer lies in history, as always. Back in the 19th century and even 20th century, plumbing system in the UK were designed with two separate water supplies, one for drinking water cold and one for non-drinking purposes hot. Hot water was often stored in tanks, which were not always hygienic, so mixing these two directly was avoided to prevent contamination. This design stuck around for decades, becoming a hallmark of traditional British homes. While modern buildings now have mixer taps, the separate taps are still surprisingly common in older properties, and they remain a quirky feature that many associate with the UK. I would admit they have a certain charm that hints at the country's rich history, but as much as I appreciate the historical significance, I wouldn't want to live long-term in a house with two taps. Some traditions, in my opinion, are best admired from a distance or in a museum. One of the stereotypes about Brits is that they are polite to a fault, and I thought that can't be true everywhere. But it really is. I've never heard the word sorry so many times in my life. It doesn't matter if someone bumps into you, they'll still say, oh, sorry about that. I remember my first trip to the supermarket. I accidentally stepped slightly to the side and suddenly it was like a chorus, oh, sorry, from the person behind me. It's like this politeness is built into their DNA. And honestly, I kind of love it. It makes the city feel a little softer, a little more welcoming. And the best part? I've got myself doing it too, and I love it. Kindness is genuinely cool. In my home country, if you accidentally bump into someone, depending on the person of course, but you might be met with a frown, a sad expression, or even a harsh look. In some cases, you could even be told off with something like, are you watching where you're going? Where are your eyes? If there's one thing that made my jaw drop, is the cost of living in London. Everyone wants you, but nothing prepared for seeing it firsthand. Let's take transportation, for example. A one-way trip from the city center to zone 5 or 6 can cost £7 or £8 during the off-peak hours. Imagine doing that twice a week. even if you're working remotely. By the end of the month, you've spent enough on transport to fund a small vacation. And don't get me started on rent. London apartments are tiny and the prices are astronomical, but somehow people make it work. And what I've learned is that you really need to budget carefully and prioritize what is really important to you. For me, it's been about finding free or affordable things to do in the city, and luckily London has plenty of those too. Cafes in London have this charm to them, cute, cozy, and perfect for catching up with a friend or working remotely. But there's a catch, they are tiny. I'm not joking. The tables are so close together that you can hear every single word of the conversation next to you. I remember sitting in one cafe and unintentionally getting the full download of someone's breakup story. It's hard not to listen when you're basically shoulder to shoulder with strangers, but this closeness is also a part of the charm. It creates this sense of community and intimacy, even if it means sacrificing a bit of personal space. And again, I think it's not a big problem for locals because they are so open. One of the most heartwarming surprises has been how friendly and approachable people are here. London has a reputation for being a busy, fast-paced city, but the people, they're really lovely. From shop assistants to strangers in the park, everyone I met has been so kind and willing to help. There was this one time I got completely lost trying to find a bus stop. I must have looked like a deer in the headlights because a lady came over, smiled and said, "Need some help, honey?" Moments like that make you realize that yes, London is a beacon of overwhelming, but the people here are what make it feel like home. And I think the most unexpected things for me that I've noticed is how happy and active elder people are here. I see them in parks, taking long walks, sitting at cafes with friends or enjoying a good book. There's the sense of joy and contentment that I find so inspiring. It's a reminder that life doesn't stop at a certain age, and in fact, it feels like many other people here are just getting started, embracing hobbies, traveling, and really making the most of their time. It's such a positive and refreshing perspective that I hope to carry with me as I grow older. I don't want to go too deep into the personality and way of life in my home country, but believe me, the attitude towards life among elderly people is vastly different compared to those in Britain. People are often obsessed with their current or potential illnesses, which turns their everyday life into a monotonous and self-destroying routine. I really love the contrasting view of the Brits, and I believe that embracing the positive aspects of life as much as they can helps make their lives a bit longer. Finally, here are some other peculiarities that I was able to notice that are not so familiar for me. Queuing culture. The British love their queues. And honestly, it's a kind of amazing. It's like an unspoken rule that no matter what, you must stand in line patiently. If you ever need an icebreaker, just mention the weather. Everyone has an opinion and it's guaranteed to spark a conversation. I just prepared a couple of British idioms that are based on something related to weather but mean really different things. But through these weather conditions, people express their thoughts often. For example, under the weather. This means feeling unwell or sick. For example, I am a bit under the weather. I think I'll stay at home today. Another good example is a storm in a teacup. This refers to a situation that is being made out to be much more important and serious than it really is. For example, don't worry about the argument, it's just a storm in a teacup. Every cloud has a silver lining. This means that every difficult or unpleasant situation has some positive aspect, even if it's hard to see at first. For example, I lost my job, but every cloud has a silver lining. I'm finally pursuing my dream career. And the next peculiarity is pubs culture. Pubs are not just for drinks, they are commuting hubs where people meet, laugh, and share stories. And the most exciting thing for me is that if you're walking down the street and there is a pub somewhere over there, and you'll see a lot of people standing outside just talking, no matter how cold it is. Not inside, but outside. London and England in general have its quirks and challenges, but that's what it makes so special. These culture shocks have taught me so much about embracing differences and finding beauty in the unexpected. I'm curious, have you ever experienced anything like this in any other country? Or is there something about London you'd love to know more about? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for more adventures in this incredible city. See you next time!